Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on October 20th, 2025 at approximately 8 p.m. PST. Now, I've made it my life's purpose to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my own day to day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies that I guide virtually every decision I make by. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people over the years with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, tonight we are going to talk about strategy because we look at finances on Mondays. So we're going to be looking at how to stretch a dollar. Okay. Now again, these are not the only tools available, but they are the ones I personally use. But before we get into it, I do want to tip my hat to Storm. He is the primary moderator in back and also complete tech support. He is the one that keeps this whole system running, and rest assured, with him trying to handle it on my end, that's a challenge. Then we have LA Moon in the room. She is the primary moderator that keeps conversations going, adds input where things seem to get a little quiet, and also makes sure that people are behaving themselves. Again, the rules of the stream are listed at the top of the stream, but they're also constantly scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So if you find yourself suddenly outside without any warning, you probably broke one of the rules. Okay, you'll still be able to listen. You just won't be able to interact. Now, with that all said, let's go to the top here. And we have Simon the Likeable. You are in with the gold. How you doing, Simon? Glad you could make it. Yeah, I've been out of commission for a while. I'm finally getting back into the swing of things. Now, what do we got here? We also have, scroll down, and we have Operation Shutdown. You are in with silver. Yeah. The funny thing is when you say we all need to do some dollar stretching, oddly enough, this applies to everybody from the pauper to the billionaire. Billionaires have their own set of problems. And honestly, I really wish I had that one. That set. But that's just on a personal note. Now let's see. Mike, you are in with the bronze. How you doing, Mike Jones? Glad you could join us. And we shall carry on. Now, here's the thing. When we're talking about stretching your dollar, okay, there's all kinds of ways that people do this. Most of the time, I look at modern tech and the advancements that are being made and go, I'm not touching it. And the reason for that is because most of the modern well, that worked well. Most of the modern advancements, okay, are debilitating. There's one that has happened that I was fortunate, and my ex actually taught me how to use, which is ordering groceries online. Now, here's the thing. Because of what they charge here, if you order early enough, it only cost me $5 for them to put my order together and bring it right to my apartment door. Now, I'll tell you where that becomes a benefit. Number one, even if I had a car to drive with, it would cost me more money and time to drive to the to the grocery store, do all the searching for the products, drive it home, and then drag it into the house. So I can do it, at least in Kelowna, BC, here where I live. I can do it for $5 and they drop it right at my doorstep, like literally inside, right at my apartment. So something that you really have to take a look at, or at least I strongly recommend. You can do it whichever way you desire. Okay. First and foremost, apparently I'm tired. By the way, lack of lung functionality, heart attacks, that sort of thing will play havoc with you. But, so, my apologies for the yawns. Let's face it, this is live. Okay. So we work with what we got. But when you're looking at, let's start with sales. Okay. And you see these sales that are 2-for-1 sales. This is great if you can use the 2-for-1. Like, for instance, if you're looking at 2-for-1 soap, dish soap, you can keep the dish soap forever. Okay. So absolutely a 2-for-1 deal works. But what we got to realize, and I've seen this happen, I am not impressed with me right now. It isn't like I've been overworking today, so my apologies. When you go in and you start looking at sales in the grocery store, especially, okay, take a look at the original price. I was in a grocery store one day and I saw they literally had mushroom soup on sale for $1.20. But whoever put the sign out forgot to remove the original the original price. And the original price was $99, or $99, 99 cents. So I went to the grocery manager and I said, "Can you explain this?" And the guy looks at me and he goes, "Yeah." He says, "Number one," he said, "it's being perfectly legal. The sign says these are on sale for $1.20. We are selling them for $1.20. Thing is," he goes, "we sell more."
I'm sorry to interrupt, Keith.
Yo,
Uh, what you're exhibiting now looks like a blood sugar crash. You may want to go grab something quick to eat.
oh, okay.
Len just said that it looks like your blood sugar's crashing.
Well, don't have time for something to eat, but I can cure the sugar problem. I'll be right back.
Alrighty. A little musical interlude until he gets back.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby.
We got back. Don't have anything really quick as far as sugar goes. So I did the one thing that made total sense. We do actually have sugar in the house. I tell you, if you suffer from a crash, that'll do it. But my apologies. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, I talked to the grocery manager, and he said, "Look, it's perfectly legal. We are selling it at $100.20, but he said, here's the thing: we sell more when we put that orange sign up than we do if we don't put it up." And but he says you can always go to the manager, or to the cashier for that matter, and ask them to charge you the regular price. Okay, you do have that right to do that. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I stumbled across it quite by accident. So watch the prices when you look at a sale. And again, if it's 2 for 1, and you can use it or you can safely store it, something like soap, like just straight dish soap, bar soap, whatever, that keeps essentially forever, by all means, buy it 2 for 1. You can store it. Okay, but also double check the 2 for 1. Sometimes it's cheaper to buy 2 individual than it is to buy 2 for 1. The other thing, when you start looking at perishables, okay, maybe you can't go through 10 pounds of potatoes. Okay, maybe you just don't go through that before it goes bad. However, when you take a look at it, if you turn around and you talk to your neighbor or your family, and you both go in on a combined shop, then frankly, it works out well. It does boil down to you have to communicate. Well, where are we here? Oh, Cosmic, our sincere apologies. Or sincere sympathies, I think, is better. Okay. Understand our hearts do go out to you. It's a rough one. To me, pets have always been 4-legged fuzzy kids. And it really is, it hits you really bad when it happens. Yeah, that was just a minor side note because I do like reading what's going on in the chat room. But when you can buy, if you can store stuff, if it'll keep, okay, absolutely do so. Now, something else that I've started to do is I'll take fresh vegetables, and instead of canned ones, now canned vegetables may not taste as good, but they do keep a whole lot longer. What we have to remember is when you're looking at the purchase, when you look at the price, double check and make sure that 2 for 1 is actually 2 for 1. Because I've seen them do it, where what they'll do is they'll go 2 for 1, and they'll charge you more for the 2 for 1 than they will for 2 individual products, 2 individual cans. Okay, but again, if you turn around and you split the cost with other people, well, what do we got here? One of the hardest things that we have to look at where it comes to handling your finances, okay, is knowing how much you've got to work with. And this is why if you go to the link at the top of the page at buymeacoffee.com/innervoicej, you'll find I've got a whole list of books that you can pick up. Believe in Your Finances and Follow Your Dreams is one of them. I'm in the middle of translating from another program another book that will be titled How to Make Money, and More. These are simply day-to-day tools that can be used. One of the biggest things you got to look at where it comes to your cost of groceries is make sure that you're buying groceries that you can actually utilize. Do not make the mistake of buying, like I made the mistake the other day. Oh, let's buy a big bin of strawberries because that's a good idea. It was on sale. It was great. Unfortunately, I didn't get to them. And again, this is why sometimes buying smaller amounts may look more expensive, but it's also less waste. You know, something I have found, especially if you don't have a vehicle, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, get somebody, if you can't get groceries delivered, get somebody to drive you there, share the cost of the gas, share the cost of the groceries. It is likely still going to cost you a whole lot less. You know, one of the biggest things that we have to take a look at is and this is something I do myself, is I'll buy a bunch of fresh vegetables. I will make homemade vegetable soup. Throw it in the freezer, let it cool, throw it in the freezer. And then later, when I go to pull it out, I'll thaw it out and I'll add fresh hamburger to it. Okay. Again, make sure you cook it properly first. Now, just a side note, for those of you that think you're bad cooks or that you can't cook well, I'll tell you, I thought I was an absolutely pathetic cook until I spent a couple of weeks in the hospital. Okay, I'll tell you, I feel like I'm a gourmet at this point. Simon's going, is just like it's no regularly. Good way to save money, too, if you don't have any particular stuff going on, any medical stuff going on. Well, oh, Simon goes, I missed the first part. I'm fasting pretty regularly. Now, here's the thing. I've always looked at fasting and gone, every time I go to bed, I start fasting. Now, I don't know if that's the real definition, but I do find that I eat as soon as I get up in the morning, and I'm usually doing pretty good. But I will tell you, the biggest thing about stretching your dollar is knowing how much money you're working with. One of the things about making your money work is when you take a look at it, let's settle for groceries for a moment. Okay. It does work really well if you can bring yourself to plan what you're eating, what you're going to have for meals throughout the week, and make sure, and then you just buy once a week, once a month, whatever your bills will afford. But plan your meals so you can mesh things together. Okay, so you get the groceries you require. And one of the biggest tricks: do not go don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. What do we got? Yeah. Personally, Simon, I like Simon's just going, if you can cook spaghetti, open a can of spaghetti sauce, add a little bit of meat and a little bit of vegetables, you're good to go. And honestly, that's very true. I personally prefer either your macaroni or your spiral noodles. I don't actually like the long ones anymore because I find that they're a pain in the neck. But you can always take spaghetti and chop and cut it down. But there are some real quick and easy ways. Like, because I cannot make good gravy, I will buy canned soup that has a gravy base, add extra meat, add extra vegetables, add extra rice, whatever, and turn around and carry on with it. As it turns out, that works out really, really well. The difficult part is you've got to make sure you take the time to do it. You've got to make sure you take time to cook. These are all ways that you can actually extend the reach of your dollar. Okay. And again, whatever you do, when you're looking at delivery, make sure it makes sense. Now, because of when I get groceries delivered, it costs me a staggering $5. But if you're paying 20, 30 bucks to get groceries delivered, you're probably paying too much. The other thing that I will warn you about is, yes, and this is just if you like pizza, okay, grocery store pizza, frozen pizza, doesn't take long to cook and is a fraction, as in a quarter, at least a minimum of half the price of of restaurant pizza. Okay, doesn't take much to cook. Does take a little bit of effort, so don't kid yourself. You still got to pay attention. But look at what you're spending. You definitely require time out. You require a night out on occasion. Just don't make the mistake I did. Okay, I used to go out 3-4 times a week because I didn't like cooking. I still don't. But I like the damage to my pocketbook even less. Something else. Now, this is one just for those of you that, if you're like me, have trouble boiling eggs and actually getting them to come out right. Okay, this is what I was taught, and it's not the only method. But if you take eggs, pop them in the pot, just barely cover them with water. Okay, you put them in the pot, set them on the stove, on to boil. Okay, and set your timer. As soon as the eggs are on the stove in cold water, set the timer for 15 minutes. Once the timer goes off, immediately take the hard-boiled eggs, put them pour cold water in on them and let it run. This will stop the eggs from cooking. Okay, then you can peel them immediately. Okay, and of course, eggs will keep in the fridge once they're cooked for a reasonable amount of time. I do not recommend cooking a whole pile of them because they will go bad sooner or later. But when you're looking at stretching the dollar, what you're doing at home is going to make all the difference in the world. The other thing that I found is you can buy canned beans, certainly. And I'm just starting to experiment with this. But if you can buy dried beans or dried vegetables of any form, okay, if you can dry them or get them dried and not leave them soak, which is what I was first told, but you boil the daylights out of them and they work just like canned beans, but they're fresh and you don't have to worry about them. If you look at it, and this is where talking to your neighbors, talking to friends and family comes in real handy. If you can buy between you a large bag of vegetables, i.e., potatoes, onions, these are ones that are commonly found in large quantities. If you can look at it and split the cost, okay, then all of a sudden you're saving money like there's no tomorrow. Yeah, Cosmic goes, I used to make deviled eggs. My mom did. I've never tried making deviled eggs to speak of. But, as I've told people before, I'm lazy. Okay, and growing up really financially challenged. Most of it because of my own stupidity, by the way, which is why I'm talking about doing this. Now, there are those of you that will take a look at grocery shopping or errand running, and you'll go, "Oh, the potatoes are on sale here for cheap. On the other side of the city, the corn is on sale." Okay, or maybe toilet paper is on sale at another spot. Running around to the various different sales, if you don't plan your trip, more often than not is more expensive and certainly more of a hassle than going to a regular store where you can just keep going to the same store that you're happy with and utilizing what they've got. Okay, now, again, it really boils down to planning your day. If you've got an errand to run and you know you're short on milk, while you're near a grocery store, pick up the milk. You're out anyway. Okay, it literally boils down to the same idea of trying to keep your house sorted around. If you're going to buy something and you know it's got to be put away, pick it up and take it with you. Okay, where it comes to groceries, the more organized your pantry is, the more readily you'll be able to see what you actually require. Come to think of it, that reminds me. I've got a dehydrator up front and a whole pile of onions that I really have to get to. You know, one of the other things I look at where it comes to making your dollar work, okay, is if you plan what you're doing, okay, if you watch the little bits and pieces, and here's a neat little kicker to it. Is that what I want? Nope, that is not. With the grocery store I go to, they tell you at the bottom of the list, at the bottom of your grocery bill, you saved X number of dollars, in coupons or on sale items. When you get home, take whatever dollar amount is there and transfer it into a true savings account. Because most people, what they do is they'll turn around and they'll save $10 and then they'll spend it immediately on something else. Well, if you do that, you're not saving a thing. Okay. Well, did I miss something here? Probably. Nope. Okay. Now, something else that we look at. Okay. Is when you look at the regular price of things. Sometimes, not very often, prices will drop. Okay. Yeah, and that's a good point, Simon. I haven't gotten quite to that. When you start looking at all these different, like Simon is just saying, Netflix monthly subscription is another one of these things that add up. They look small, but multiply it out over the course of the year. Now, so many people I talk to have Netflix and YouTube and Crave and umpteen dozen other supply services that all cost a little bit of money. Now, I only have one subscription. That's Netflix. The way I figure it, I'll watch what's on there. I don't even have regular cable. But when you start looking at the subscriptions you're paying for, it all costs money. Come to think of it, I've got a bill I got to deal with. One of the biggest challenges you're going to run into in making your money work is knowing what you're spending it on. Okay, it's one of these things that it can be horrendous. Yeah, LA goes, when we're scraping the bottom, I like to take pasta, olive oil, and butter, and make pasta day. I'm trying to read that. What do we got here? Oh, pasta de olio, I believe is how you pronounce it. You make pasta, saute it slightly in butter and olive oil. I honestly haven't tried it.
That's
No.
pasta de olio.
Olio?
Olio.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, yeah, LA goes, basil works as well. I'm only just learning how to actually mix spices and what have you. And again, it boils down to you can buy from a restaurant, you can buy pre-made from the store, or you can make it yourself. I'm telling you, it's healthier to make it for yourself. And like I said, don't spend time in the hospital. Talk to somebody that's been there. Okay, if you can avoid spending time in the hospital. But I'll tell you, I did find out when I was there, I can actually cook functionally well. Yeah, one thing I did find, okay, where it comes to home cooking, as it were, is take a look at things you do like. Okay, experiment with them. Okay, now I grew up with something that we call goulash, which really boiled down to whatever was in the fridge and hadn't expired went into the same pan. Of course, we grew up on a shoestring budget. Okay, and by sharing ideas with each other, again, we go back to this communication. Okay. What we got here? Cosmic goes, I make ramen noodles with butter and grated cheese. Yeah, that works. Again, I have a problem myself with the ramen because of the longer noodles. But anytime you can take pasta or rice, or for that matter, I've recently started working with cabbage as well. It's another thing that gives you the bulk. It's healthy to eat. And honestly, when you mix it up with, as you pointed out, cheese, it doesn't taste half bad. You know, so what we're looking at is ways of making making your dollar go further. Okay. Now, yes, you can actually buy, like you can buy gravy in the can already made or the packets. I find the stuff in the can, yeah, it's got more preservatives. My mom, when she first moved out of the house, she knew how to make toast and 10 different types of porridge, which, by the way, porridge is actually a really good filling breakfast. Of course, it takes time. But when she moved out, that's all she could cook. Then she played around a lot. Okay. And it's an ongoing thing. But it's also a question of, remember, you're going to require snack food periodically. We all know this. But snack food does not have to be extremely pricey. Okay. Take a look and see where most people make a mistake is they open a bag of chips and they go, I'm going to open a bag of chips. And it's one of these great big ones. I don't want to leave the chips because they'll get stale. This is why they invented airtight containers. Okay. Yeah. And again, when you mention bologna, we're talking about deli meats. You can mix and match deli meats all over the place. As a matter of fact, in most delis, see if they've got deli ends. Okay. Most delis will have them. Operation. Honestly, my favorite snack food is probably Hawkins Cheesies. I don't like the Cheetos, the ones that they are really soft. I like the ones with a little bit of a crunch. Next to them would be sour cream and onion chips. Something else. Okay. When we start looking at mixing that, at making your own, there is no, you're going to make mistakes. Everybody does. That won't make you feel any better. But one thing that you will find is if you make something, keep tabs on what you're doing. When I'm making a mixture up, I literally write down what I'm adding to it so that when it's done, if it's good, I keep the recipe in my recipe book. If it turns out to taste like, well, you figure out the fill-in word. Okay. If it turns out that it tastes like that, throw the recipe out and don't do that again. Okay. Something else. Well, yeah. LA goes, snacks, whippy, pies. And I did discover something. Pop-Tarts are great, but I will warn you, they got one heck of a sugar jump. But you only need one or two to call it a snack. Don't make the mistake that I've seen people make and turn your snack food into a meal, because it will create other problems for you. One of the biggest things that I look at is when you're taking a look at, especially at ordering out. Okay, one of the best meals I've found that you can order out. There's two meals that you can order out that work really well. Order pizza, okay, but when it comes in, have a couple of pieces for dinner, certainly, and then freeze the rest in meal-sized packages. Okay, that way it keeps for a lot longer, and you don't go eating it all in one shot. The same can be done with chicken. Now, I know the grocery store I go to, I can buy a rotisserie chicken completely cooked for less than I buy a fresh chicken. And given my ability to cook or inability thereof, this is a way of making things work. Okay, I do not recommend things like freezing your sandwiches. Freezing sandwich meat, certainly. Okay, but you've got to take a look at things. Where are we? Yeah, LA goes, little cookie-sized cake discs. Oh. Well, that ruined it. She goes, a little marshmallow and frosting. And assuming you like marshmallow, that works like a charm. I hear a lot of people tell me that combination is fabulous. Personally, I don't like marshmallows. However, I will tell you, where it comes to making the dollar go further, just remember, you don't have to eat everything that you buy right away. Okay. And again, when you turn around and you make something and you make a lot of something, do not, and I know people are going to complain about this one, but if you're friends with somebody, you make, let's say you get in a real band, in a real mindset, which I've done before, and you make a whole pile of cookies. Don't be afraid to share them. Yes, I know there's people who will say, oh, you can't do that because of health reasons. Well, let's be clear. I grew up on a hobby farm in the 70s. Okay. You would not believe some of the things we ate growing up, or some of the things we got our feet in walking around outside. Don't get me wrong. Be aware, whoever you're buying, whoever you're trading food with, make certain you know how they cook. Okay, because there are dangers to cooking even in your own house. The other thing to watch for, and I am no nutritionist in case you haven't figured it out, where it comes to the expiry date on things, understand even vegetables and eggs have a definitive expiry date. But talk to your grocer or talk to somebody that knows. Okay, how to tell whether a given vegetable, or especially eggs, how to tell whether they're turning. If they're starting to turn, I'm telling you, way better to throw them out than it is to eat them. Okay, unless you enjoy getting sick, at which point, hey, have a happy. Something that I will tell you, there are so many people that say, so many people talk about, get sugar-free stuff because it's better for your health. Well, sugar-free stuff may be better for your health, but there's a saying that goes, everything in moderation. Okay. Now, bearing in mind, I've recently been diagnosed diabetic. One thing I told my doctors flat out, I won't go to sugar substitutes. I will cut back on sugar, but I will not go to sugar substitutes because of some of what I found out about them. And you get to do your own research, guys. But where it comes to making the dollar work, make sure, again, planning your meals out for the week comes in real convenient for making sure you've got the right food available. LA goes, if there's a doubt, take the egg outside and break it in a bowl. You don't want that smell and that stink inside the house. That just brings to mind a mistake we made when I was a child. We used to have Easter egg hunts outside with real eggs. And we kept good, everybody kept tabs on how many eggs were hidden. But there was one year we couldn't find one egg. And what ended up happening is in the middle of August. Okay, so we're talking 3 months later, in the hottest time of the year, we found the egg with a lawnmower. This was not fun. Oh, what do we got? Oh, yeah, Simon goes, bad eggs float, I think. I can vouch for that. Okay. I didn't realize how badly, but if you take an egg, and I found this out the other day myself. When I put a few eggs that had been in the fridge for a while, I took a few eggs, put them in the water, they floated. I didn't think anything of it until I cooked them. And that was great. They were fine until I broke the eggs open. They cooked fine enough. But I'll tell you, the reek told it all. I didn't eat them. But when you look at things, okay, remember, especially when you take a look at a snack food like Pop-Tarts, it comes in individual sealed packages, at least up here, of two Pop-Tarts in each package. Don't go opening 3 and 4 packages. Open the 2, have your snack, carry on. If you need another snack a little later, you're more than welcome to it. But again, it boils down to snack food can be very pricey. Okay. I got to look into something. I saw a recipe one day years ago for a combination just snack food, something along the lines of nuts and bolts. If you can take different cereals, okay, spread them on a cookie jar on a cookie sheet, okay, and various different ones, i.e., some of the ones that I've seen used are Cheerios, Shreddies, things like that. Okay, throw a few pretzels in, and what I got shown was you take a little bit of butter, mix some soy sauce with it, you sprinkle it over gently, not vigorously, just gently over the whole thing. Stick it in the oven for a bit, and I got to look up the recipe, so I can't tell you right now how that works. I'm going to be looking into it though, but it's an inexpensive way to get some of your snack food out of the way without spending a small fortune. LA goes, you can use Chex Mix as well. And again, by mixing it together, and this is something I got to do, that and make cookies more often. Because store-bought cookies, they're great, but they cost a fortune. If you can, I encourage you, teach yourself to cook. Okay? Even if it's just little things. As was said a little earlier, if you can boil water and boil pasta, add a little bit of tomato sauce to it, Add a little bit of cheese, maybe a little bit of some type of meat that you like. Make sure the meat's cooked, by the way. Really important on that one. Okay, and throw in some vegetables, and away you go. You can have a very filling, very healthy meal for minimal cost. And this is one of the biggest things that most of us have trouble with. Well, that's interesting. Simon goes, boil rice, drain, and pour on condensed milk for dessert. I think I've heard of that before. I just have never tried it. Or if I did, I think my dad used to make rice pudding. Maybe that's a poor man's rice pudding. I don't know. But the more you pay attention to what you're doing, okay, to what you're spending your money on, the better off you are. Okay, and again, if you've got a slow cooker, then you can cook up a large batch of food at once, break it into smaller meal-sized containers, and freeze it. Okay, and the reason for that is because it means you only have to cook once a week. Okay, or once every 2 weeks, depending on what you're making and how much. But one of the biggest things, if you can buy in bulk, this is great. But share the cost with friends. Yeah, we got two problems. My taste buds, or more to the point, as it turns out, it's my texture problems that I run into, which is weird. I can't tolerate yogurt, okay, and yet I can eat sour cream without a problem. Why? I don't know. Okay, but again, it boils down to making certain that you're paying attention. So I think the best way I can put it is one of the best ways to stretch a dollar. If you've got to leave your house for whatever reason, plan the trip. Do you have to go to the grocery store? Are you going to have to get gas sooner or later? Do everything and plan the trip so you only make one loop. So you're not going crisscross across the city. One of the things that I did find is that by planning where you're going, and if you've got a friend or a relative that also has to go shopping or has a couple errands to run, take them with you. You're making the run anyway. Okay, and rest assured, the company isn't usually a bad thing. Something to keep in mind where it comes to what you're looking at. Okay, pay close attention to the way you're setting your food up. Because again, now, here's a neat little trick that will stretch a dollar. It's a weird trick. Okay, most people have a dinner plate, which is usually a large plate, a luncheon plate, which is usually a lot smaller. Well, here's the kicker. Okay, I've taken to using a luncheon plate for supper. What it is it tricks your mind into thinking you're eating more. Okay, net result, you don't consume as much. But be careful because you still require the caloric intake to be functional. And by the way, just a tip of the hat there to you, LA. I took that I literally went up front because I didn't have anything that I could do for real quick sugar, except straight sugar. So I just took a quarter, a half a teaspoon of actual sugar, and took that. Problem solved. Thank you very much. I'll have to remind myself of that. I'm still trying to get used to figuring out how my new body works. Because I'll tell you that cardiac arrest, and a couple of them, created a very big problem. Okay. Something else you will find. Now, I use the freezer a lot. Okay. I have found that even without blanching, onions freeze really well if you're trying to put them in the stew, or if you're putting them in the soup, stew, or if you're mixing them in with hamburger or something like that. Doesn't matter, because the freezing, what it does, it breaks the cell structure down. But if you're cooking it with other stuff, that won't be a problem. Okay, the same thing I found happens with various other vegetables. Okay, and again, and from what I've gathered, and I'm no cook. Okay, so I'm still working on the blanching method, but from what I have figured, from what I gather, you cut your beans up, for instance, and I'm talking green beans. Cut them into smaller pieces, get the water boiling, set them in the boiling water for 2, maybe 3 minutes, put them out to cool, throw them in the freezer, you're good. Okay, if you've got a dryer, which I do, this is another way to make your food last longer and thereby cost less. Now, let's go on before we run out of time here, which is pretty quick. Where it comes to clothes shopping. Okay, I don't know about you, but I grew up on secondhand. Okay, however, there is a catch. If you go to a secondhand store, in today's world, at least in my end of the world, it is actually almost as expensive to buy secondhand as it is to buy brand new. So again, look at what you require. Okay, the only thing I never buy secondhand, and I'm sure you'll understand why, is I never buy socks or undergarments. Socks, undergarments, or shoes, I never buy secondhand. Thank you very much, LA. We are down to the 10-minute mark. Now, there are a lot of other ways of making your dollar work further. And one that I keep finding myself is if you've got bills, okay, or if you've got credit card bills, okay, look at how much interest they're charging as compared to how much interest you make in your savings account. I'm telling you, running a credit card balance, and next week, as a matter of fact, I should make a note of that. Next week, when we get to Monday, I'm going to explain to you how you can take a credit card and earn a small income with it, not cost yourself a fortune. Okay, there are a lot of different ways of stretching your dollar. And yes, when I get back to writing the Positive Perspectives, the free magazine, because I'll tell you, the last 3 months have been a nightmare. But when I get back to that, we will be putting little tips like that throughout the editions, things so you can figure out how to actually make your money work. Because as my father used to put it, you pay attention to the pennies, you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. Okay, very important from your standpoint. Take a look at the money you've got coming in. Make sure you're using it wisely. Very, very important. Okay, it does take planning to get ahead. This is a thing people keep forgetting. But remember, on the whole, people do not plan to fail. They fail to plan. Now, the biggest trick in the book, and I'm putting this to use literally tonight. I'm going to, as soon as I get off here and get done this stream in about 5 minutes, I'm going to lay out next week's menu. That's the word I'm looking for. So that I can make sure that I get the food in here to cover it. Yes, you will end up making adjustments as time goes on, but at least you'll have a plan in place. Yeah, LA goes, I swap clothes with my niece and sisters-in-law, or friends. The reality of it is, as LA puts it, we all get new things and don't feel deprived. Because I'll tell you, sometimes change is just as good, if not better. Getting just a simple change can be so much more relief than buying something brand new. It's still new to you. Now, the other thing, and this will save you a fortune if you do this, every paycheck that comes in, take 1%, put it in your mad money, put 1% in savings. The reason you do that, okay, and that's before you do anything, it doesn't do any damage to your paycheck effectively. But what it does do is it will change the feel of your income from I'm working to pay my bills to I'm working and paying my bills. That will save you a staggering amount of money and, much more importantly, stress. Yeah, LA goes, menu planning saves a fortune. So take all of these things into consideration. And again, if you only got part of this, go back and listen. We're going to be covering things like this because it's time for us, the general population, to start changing this world. And like I said, working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, granted, I am not the most, shall we say, energetic speaker. I certainly am not that good on the joke side of things. But the important factor here, in this case, is functionality. Okay, now tomorrow, I just got to take a look at that. Tomorrow, we are looking at decluttering your life. Okay, and we're going to take a look at what you've got to start removing. And it's not a question of me telling you what's good, what works for you. It's a question of you assessing where you're standing. And I'm talking, when I talk about your life, I mean your spiritual path, your mental state, your emotional state, and your material world. Okay? Because all of these things will help put money back in your pocket. And I don't know about you, but as one gentleman told me, and one gentleman very well off made a comment to me. He goes, you know, I've been miserable rich and I've been miserable poor. Hands down, I'd rather be miserable rich. Well, I don't know about rich, but I'm certainly tired of living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so I'm eliminating that problem. And as I do that, I am going to talk to you guys about this and share the path I'm on so you can see what's going on and hopefully take inspiration to it. Now, with this in mind, okay, I know we're just hitting the end here. With this in mind, I certainly want to say thank you so much to all of you for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. I do look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Okay, 8 p.m. Pacific, where we discuss how to get started on decluttering your entire life, one step at a time. Until then, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.